I am Adam Weil, partner at White Rabbit Group. Welcome to the Pixel Perfect Podcast, where we share knowledge, experiences, and motivations from creatives and entrepreneurs. Today on the Pixel Perfect Podcast, I'm joined by Shawn Kessler, partner and managing director of recruitment marketing. I'm going to talk about what that means for those of you that don't know. At A, B, and C, a really talented marketing agency. And a little bit about Shawn. He spent more than 2 decades helping organizations rethink how they attract, how they retain talent by treating employer brand as a core business strategy, not like just a recruitment sort of afterthought. So his work really sits at the intersection of culture, storytelling, and marketing, and helping companies turn employee experiences into a competitive advantage. So this is a new topic for us. I'm super excited to dive into it. So we're going to talk about what it really takes to build an employer brand that resonates with the right people, why the strongest talent brands are built from within and what that looks like, and how recruitment marketing is evolving beyond job postings and campaigns. So if you're thinking about talent as a long-term growth driver, right? I talk a lot about growth on this podcast, but if you're
Sure.
really thinking about it as a long-term growth driver, not just a hiring problem, this conversation's for you. Because at the end of the day, marketing agencies, creative agencies, we are really selling our people. So Shawn, welcome. I'm super excited to dive into this.
Hey, thanks for having me, Adam. Appreciate it.
You bet. You bet. So I'm going to start with give me just the high level thesis of what this means. I think a lot of people are. I don't think a lot of people are clued into what's happening here with
Sure.
recruitment marketing, the changes that are happening. So maybe you can just kind of give us a high level overview, and then we'll dive into what that looks like in the real world.
Sure. So, I'm going to go back a little ways. I hope that's okay. Tell a little bit of a story. So,
Yeah.
I found myself 20, 25 years ago at a hospital in a marketing department, helping the organization bring in patients to receive their care. And all of a sudden, basically, my chief communications officer walked in the door and said, "Our CEO just made recruitment a priority, and it's now your priority. So figure out how to help us get more talent in here." And so, that's kind of where my career started. And I didn't realize uh, how important it was for organizations to really understand what makes them unique. The same way that we need our master brands to be unique, to kind of help people understand why they should work with us or choose us as a partner. That employer brand is just as unique, and just as important for attracting that talent. And
Mm-hmm.
so over the last 25 years, I've spent my career really helping organizations understand what it is about them and their culture that they should be promoting and what it is that is actually attractive to potential talent. And I couldn't agree with you more. In the agency world, we sell the collective excellence of the people that work here, right?
Totally.
So
Yep.
the better talent that we can get in the door, that the way that talent potentially works with those that are around them and is additive to the culture, the more important it is.
Right. Right.
So
It's so true. I want to talk about how that's manifesting itself now, right? Because you wrote a fantastic article on LinkedIn, which we'll add in the show notes for those of you who want to check it out. I think it really hits on a lot of great points, and one of them is how potential candidates are looking up information about that company is changing, right? They're looking at these different platforms. They're talking with AI.
yeah,
So tell me more. What maybe has that looked like in the past, and how is it starting to change? Like
yeah,
where candidates
yeah.
are actually getting their opinions from.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? So these things tend to go through cycles, and 25 years ago, we were all looking in the back of newspapers for like classified ads of where we would be. As scary as it is, the younger viewers of yours are going to be like, "No way, people actually did that." But yeah, we did. You'd wait to get the Sunday paper, and there'd be a classified ad in the back, and you would hope, you would mail in your resume and your portfolio, and you would hope you'd get that phone call to come and meet with those folks in person to do your portfolio review.
Mhm,
And then that transitioned to everything being online, right? Then we started seeing the monsters and the careerbuilder.coms and those different sites. And now we could look for jobs all over the place. And it wasn't just like on the weekend edition of the newspaper, but it
mhm,
transitioned to that. But what that then transitioned to is everybody just using Google, right? So you would go out and you would Google career opportunities, and I think it's probably the first thing that any of us would consider doing and think about doing even now. We career opportunities, if we need to look for a job, that's what we're doing. Now, up until recently, I would say a year and a half ago, what you would end up doing is you would search for a job, and most likely the thing that was going to come up at the top was Indeed. And it's because Indeed understood Google's algorithm, and Indeed understood that if they go out there and they basically catalog all of the career opportunities, they're going to get a lot of traffic. And then Google's going to say, well, you're most likely going to find that job opportunity you want
Mm,
on Indeed. So they start ranking Indeed really high without Indeed even having to spend $1 to potentially get that attention.
mm,
And so for a decade now, we've seen kind of Indeed own that marketplace. Like it's where you
mm,
had to be. It's where you had to spend money to get your jobs up to the top, all of those different things. But now in the last year, we're seeing changes because now when we go out to Google and you ask a question in that dial or in the box, now we're getting the AI response. And it's interesting because AI is valuing things far differently than the traditional Google search. So what we're seeing now is the AI based search is looking more at the context. It's looking more at the authenticity of the information.
mm,
5 years ago, you could keyword stuff. You could
mm,
do things like
mhm,
making sure a landing page had a ton of these specific keywords on it and you would rank up higher. That doesn't work anymore. So
mm,
now we have to recognize that the things that those AI-based search value more than other areas are things like employee testimonials or employee
mm,
conversations, employees ranking what an organization's like or telling the story about what an organization's really like. So the great thing about it is we're starting to see a reason to invest more in our cultures and invest more in our people rather than investing in paying for a job posting.
mm,
That's a great place to go. And I think it's a place that a lot of HR departments and talent acquisition teams are going to be very excited to go. Um, I think candidates are better served by it, hearing from real people about what it's like to be there.
mhm,
Whether it's the good, the bad, the challenging. There's an interesting story out, Adam, about a group that it was very, very transparent about their job postings,
mhm,
where they said, if you're interested in quality of life, don't apply here. We're going to
mm,
expect
mm,
you to work 60 hours plus a week. It's the expected, not something that's wildly inappropriate for this organization. And
right.
yeah, your life is going to be very challenging, but you're going to make a lot of money. And then
Mm,
after a couple of years, if you want to go somewhere else, you go somewhere else, right? Everybody thought it was a joke, but the responses that they got because they were
mm,
truthful about what the opportunity was like
right.
were were immense. And people were like, you know what? I'm young. I'll spend 60 hours a week. I'm going to make really good money and then I'll go somewhere else. So
Yeah.
there's opportunity out there. Truth is always going to win out. But now we finally have an AI-based search function that is helping bring truth in context to the forefront, which is always
Right.
is a good thing.
And it sounds like it's bringing in, information from what? Reddit, Glassdoor. Are there other specific platforms that you think are really important to keep in
Yeah,
mind?
So it's here's the so the AI-based search is always going to bring what is said in the truth forward. Okay, so um, it's more the reason when I said it's going to be important for us to invest in our own people and in our own stories. It's because if we aren't willing to give our employees a voice, if we're not willing to get those stories out there, the stuff that is going to be fed into those responses is the things like your Glassdoor reviews and ratings.
Mm,
It's going to be things like the Indeed rating system. Um, and I hate to say it, that's not the content you want up there.
mm,
And the
yeah.
reason I say that is um, when you look at Glassdoor, it's frankly a mirror on society. And one of the things that we know is people will tend to be negative far quicker than they're ever positive. And a lot of times there's no checks and balances for those review systems. So somebody could apply for a role at your organization. They don't even get an interview, but they're so angry that they didn't get an interview. They go out and they blast you on Glassdoor. So
Mm,
now all of a sudden you're getting a more negative view of the organization, even though this is a person who's never worked there, never, you know, even had an interview, but they're
Mhm.
affecting your review score. But because the AI-based search function doesn't have any better content to share, that's what it's going to pull forward.
Right, right.
So it's all the more important that we
You gotta
make.
counterbalance that.
Yeah, we've got to tell our story because if we don't tell our story or don't allow
Mm,
it, more importantly, letting your employees tell it in a real and genuine way, the things that are
mm,
hard, the things that are good, the things that they love, the things that are challenging,
mm.
all of it is out there. And when it's in context and it's in truth, it's gonna resonate better.
Yeah. Man, you know what this makes me think of? So much on this podcast, we talk about niching down and specialization. And, I think the industry in general, it's in a lot of ways, it's very saturated. There's a lot of anybody can spin up a website and say they're a marketing expert. And so I think there's this whole trend of really niching down and specializing and being able to talk to the pain points of that audience. I'm seeing a little bit of parallels here where it's like there's so much transparency now of information about your company, whether you're doing it or someone else is doing it. And if you really want to, take advantage of that, like number one, it's taking advantage of it, but it's also like there's a defensive piece of it too, right? You want to, like you said, counterbalance that. And
Sure.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it seems like it's more effective to be sort of polarizing, like that example you just provided, to say, hey, this is who we're not for, but this is who we are for. And if you are that, then, reach out to us and you're going to find more of those people.
Well, every good brand pushes and pulls, right? And employer branding is exactly the same. So where like a customer focused brand push and pull is there are certain customers that are not right for your business. Right.
Sure.
We've both been in the industry long enough to know that there are some clients that come in the door that you basically are shaking your head afterwards and being like, we never should have worked with this client ever. We should have run
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
But we took them on, but we even though we knew that we shouldn't work with them, right?
Yes.
Employer brands are very much the same. Like a
Mm,
good employer brand should push and pull.
mm,
It should be transparent enough that that person who's not a good culture fit, that isn't striving to go in the same direction as the organization, that they read something or they hear something or they watch something that makes them say, you know what, maybe this isn't right for me.
mm.
Um, but the ones that see it and say, "Man, that sounds great. I'd really love to be part of that." That's the person that we wanna pull. The same way that our customer facing brands should attract the people that say, "That's the organization I wanna work with." It it
Right.
it should
Right.
be it should be both push and pull.
Mm. And tell me, how does this play out? You talk about thought leadership in that article and how it's important for, companies to be doing thought leadership. Um, are there certain individuals at a company that should be focused on this? I guess maybe it depends on the size of the organization, but what are the activities and the habits that companies should be doing in today's world regarding, recruitment marketing?
So there's a couple of things. Yes, 100%. Companies should be encouraging certain individuals within their teams to be thought leaders. To I'm a huge advocate of experience-based insights, right? You've been in the industry a long time. You chances are you have some insights that others would find incredibly helpful or valuable. And we should be encouraging our team members to get out there and share those things. But
Mm,
what we oftentimes lose track of is maybe it's that younger team member that has a perspective that we don't even think about. Um,
mm,
I'm very blessed to have a team that ranges from individuals who are older than me to individuals that are only just a couple years out of college. And I am constantly encouraging those younger team members, "Hey, would you think about writing what do you think about
mm,
this piece of content? Give me your perspective on it." Because I think what we have to recognize is all of those individuals have a voice. Not all of them have necessarily been encouraged to share their voice, and we should really be thinking about how we
mm.
encourage all of them to share their voice because it's all important. It really is.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean the agency is gonna necessarily take that perspective and wanna
Mhm.
amplify it, all the time. Um, but I will say I've been really impressed by some of the younger
Mhm.
folks on my team, and kind of their perspective around things in ways that I didn't see it, but once they brought it to my attention, I'm like,
Mm,
"That's a really good point." So,
mhm.
um, social media gives everybody a voice. We have to recognize that. So all of those employees, they have a voice one way or another, and they're sharing their
Mhm.
perspective. Whether we're seeing what they're sharing or not is neither here nor there.
Right.
But we have to remember that every employee does have a voice now, and we need to treat them with basically the amount of respect that would hope that they would basically be that ambassador for us on our behalf when we're not in the room. And
Mm.
that's a place where you want to be. Is even those younger employees, when somebody says, "What's it actually like to work there?" That they're like, "Oh my god, you gotta get there. You gotta try to get in
Mm.
with this agency. It's wonderful." So I think there's importance in encouraging that,
Yeah.
building up that voice to be an advocate, and really trying to get to that point where they wanna advocate when you're not in the room.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tricky problem to solve. I mean, I do think a lot of people, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn a lot these days, and they say that like it's something like 97% of people or something like that like don't post. They just consume. They're just more
Yeah.
passive.
Yep.
So I think it's hard to get people to pull out of their shell to share their thoughts and then also share their honest thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's an interesting problem to solve. I don't know if you have any other thoughts around how to pull that out of people more.
So what there's a the perspective I have on this is this, right? That yeah, there's a smaller group who's willing to be the voice in a public platform. But I think you would find almost all of those individuals when they're talking to people that they went to school with, that they used to work with, all of those people will either advocate for you or advocate against you in those conversations. And the conversations are happening, right? So even though, those voices may not have the reach of the individuals that are willing to be those voices on places like LinkedIn, they
Mhm.
still definitely have an audience. And you never know what that audience is that they're speaking with, and whether that person is going to be the one who's going out on LinkedIn and willing to push something out there. So I think
Mm.
it's that recognition that even though we're not necessarily seeing it or hearing it, the conversations are happening.
Yeah, yeah, it makes so much sense. It really feels like this is, and maybe this is just something I'm more new to, but it really feels like if you go all in on this sort of thing, you could really separate yourself from the pack. Because I just see a lot of punting when it comes to recruitment marketing, just kind of doing the bare minimum out there. I don't see anyone
Yeah,
really going after it. It's very rare.
yeah, and I think it takes a leadership team, Adam. I think it takes a leadership team that recognizes that this could be something that genuinely separates your organization from everybody else. That when you have a culture of individuals that want to be supportive of each other, that want to encourage, that want to, want the best for each other, and you're building that in a very intentional and purposeful way, that's huge. I remember 20 plus years ago, I was invited to an agency that we were working with when I was in the healthcare organization that I was with. And I remember walking down the hall of this agency and it was like dead quiet. The AEs weren't talking to each other. It was like you would hear random like voices getting lifted in the distance. And
Mhm.
you like there was a feeling there that was like, man, this doesn't feel like such a great place to be. You would
Mhm.
expect it to be creative, and I was expecting far more.
Mhm.
But then I've gone to other agencies and you walk in and everybody's welcoming and everybody's excited that you're there
Mm.
and you can see the genuine community that's built within those groups. And you see it in meetings when
Mm.
the person who's maybe the least experienced person in the meeting is willing and excited to contribute and to bring something up.
Mm.
That's a place where they're supported. They're not being told, no, you stay in the back of the room and stay quiet.
Right.
There's opportunity there for leaders to build how do I build cultures and environments that people thrive in and want to be part of.
Yeah.
You can do some great things with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I love listening to your people, like you said. I mean, you might learn something from them about the culture, good or bad, that you may also want to
Tell you the
embrace.
bad. They will certainly tell you the bad.
It's a good thing though, because then you
Yeah.
can learn, then you can change things or double down on it. Hey, we actually work our asses off over here, but it's super fulfilling, and I get to actually write my own story. So maybe there, as an agency owner, you might be a little shy of that, like but you know what? Let's lean into it. So you can only learn. And
Yeah,
that's
you know
amazing.
what? I'm a huge believer that every challenge that you uncover is something that is an opportunity to get better at.
Yeah.
Um, and having people who are honest enough with you to bring those things forward is huge. We don't want groupthink. We don't want people, scared to bring something up. Uh, Having those people around that are empowered enough to come forward and say, "Hey, we need to talk about this thing that was brought up in the agency-wide meeting," or there's something going on with this client that they're being really abusive, like verbally abusive to the AEs, and we need to talk about that.
Mm,
We need the people who are gonna be willing, and it should be everybody who's willing to come forward and say,
mm,
"Hey, we need to talk about this," because it does give us an
totally.
opportunity to make everything better.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's so and I'm thinking about how this plays itself out over time. I heard Sam Altman from OpenAI talk about how, like millennials, basically, like, I think, was it boomers or Gen X, they use chat like it's Google. And then he got to like Gen Z and he was saying that they use it like an operating system. Like they're just, feeding it so much information about their life and you know, there might be some problems with that down the line. But the point is, the AI is going to have so much information as time goes on. And again, for the companies that are taking the offense on this sort of recruitment marketing approach and not just, trying to counterbalance some of the negativity out there, but if they really lean into some of the positives and maybe the niche positioning that they have over time, I can only see with all of the data that's out there, employers and candidates being able to find each other so much easier, so much
Yeah.
more efficiently and accurately.
It's happening already, Adam, if I may. It actually is happening already. So I was a speaker at a conference in Maine a few months ago, and it was a conference specific to physician recruitment. And I actually was talking about this topic and about specifically how AI is changing how people are searching for roles. And it was interesting because there was a physician recruiter in the audience from Vermont who said, "I've got a great story to tell." We had our first physician hire where the physician told us they went out to ChatGPT, told ChatGPT everything that they were looking for in their ideal practice, with the geography where they were looking, all of this different things. They wanted to be partially academic. They want, all of this type of stuff. And the ChatGPT gave back to that physician its top 4 rankings. We were one of those 4. The
Mm,
doctor reached out, started a conversation with the recruiter, and we hired them.
mm,
And, that's not something that you were gonna get from Google before, you
mhm,
know?
mhm,
And so, a year ago, you would type in that question, what type of career opportunity or what you're looking for in a career opportunity, and you would get, like, the AI search would give you, like, the 1 or 2 sentence response, you know what I mean? It was brief, and
yeah,
then you were right into the search results, and it was like, at that point, we were still ignoring it. We're like, "Yeah, just whatever, it's just AI."
yeah,
Um, but then 6 months ago, all of a sudden, it turned into a larger paragraph,
mm,
and now when you do it, it's like that doctrinal statement, right? It's like the paragraph, it's all the sources materials, it's bullet points explaining why each of the things are important,
mm,
and now it's like, that is better content of what we were looking for as an answer than what we find below it.
mm,
Starting
mhm,
to ignore the search results and responding more and engaging more with that AI-based search, and
mm,
at ABC, we actually have a recruitment marketing platform called Hire Control. And it's interesting because looking in our analytics, we are seeing the AI-based search creeping up higher and higher and higher in our
mm,
referral, which is
mm.
pretty interesting to see take place.
Yeah, super fascinating. I mean, I feel like it's a little bit of a breath of fresh air for candidates and also for companies
For
because
both.
they can really be themselves and find a proper fit.
Yeah, the group that's gonna struggle with this the most is the job board owners.
Mm,
Hate to
yeah,
say it
yeah,
because
that makes sense.
and I hate to say it, has anybody ever had a great experience with a job board? Let's be honest, right? So, I don't know that it's a bad thing. If this helps society make it to where, online job boards are the future, instance of what we did with the classified newspaper ads,
Mm,
we see
mhm,
us
mhm.
transitioning past it, I don't know that it's a bad thing.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, super interesting. Okay, so what else? Any other like clear action items or maybe things people are overlooking right now as they sort of plan their next hires and their recruitment strategy and specifically for like agencies. A lot
Yeah.
of our audience members are creative agencies, smaller, maybe up to about 200 employees. That's kind of where we typically sit.
Yeah, so the my biggest piece of advice would be, basically take your own medicine. And what I mean by that is the same way that we as agencies go into our clients and say, we need to do the deep dive. We need to understand what makes you unique. We need to understand what makes your product unique. We need to be doing about that about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
What truly makes us unique as an employer? What is unique about our culture?
Mm,
Why should somebody who's a very talented employee choose to come here rather than all the other places they could go?
mm,
Um, so we need to take our own medicine. We need to, look in the mirror a little bit. We need to define it. We need to stand on it the same way that we would tell our clients to stand on the pillars of their brand. And we need to be open and truthful about who we are and communicate, have the
yeah.
conversations, and let our employees have the conversations too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great feedback. Great feedback. Love it, man. Well, you wrote the book on this. I didn't mention that earlier, but Built to Attract, I believe. And
It
tell
is.
us a little bit about that. I think for people that are wanting to hear more, I think that's probably a great next step for folks. So tell us about the book.
Sure. So the book is called Built to Attract. It's available on Amazon. And really, it's based, Adam, off of the fact that I've spent my entire career really working with organizations that have been trying to find the hardest of hard to fill roles. So it's trying to find things like neurosurgeons into rural communities, things like that are really, really challenging. And so I developed the book because as I was going throughout the industry, I saw a lot of groups talking about the challenges associated, for example, with getting 1,000 people to apply for a server's role at a restaurant, right? And how they were looking at bulk hiring and all of that. But there was very little information about what to do to kind of like build an organization to that point of being the talent attractor that people want to be part of that organization.
Mm,
And so really that's really the focus of the book is how to build that culture, how to think about that culture in a way that you're building employee ambassadorship. And
mm,
um, I do really want to emphasize the importance of having your employees so engaged with who you are and so excited about being part of your organization that, as I had mentioned before, that they're willing to speak up when you're not in the room.
mm,
We all know what it was like years ago when like Facebook or something first started and people would make a negative comment and then they would like, oh, is the organization going to respond? Right. And then there were like the rules of engagement that everybody developed on whether you respond to it or don't respond to it. But the most impactful thing was always when an employee would come forward and be like, no, that's not true. I work there and this is what it's really like.
mm,
It's not the organization response that is most impactful, it's the actual people.
mm,
We respond to people's responses. And so, building organizations to that point where employees are willing to step forward and say, "This place is great," or,
yeah.
"No, what you're saying about it is not true. Let me tell you about my experience." That's where we wanna get to. And that's what the whole book was about, is Built to Attract is building that organization to a point where you're attracting talent because of the type
Mm,
of culture that you have.
yeah. I love it. I love it because it has to be real. It can't be manufactured.
Yeah. Nobody stands up for the fake.
Yeah.
Nobody stands up for a fake organization.
Yeah. So cool. Shawn, thank you so much. Yeah, for those want to learn more, definitely check out the book, check out the article as well. And yeah, thanks so much, Shawn, for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Adam, thank you for having me. Great conversation.
Thank you for listening to the Pixel Perfect podcast, where we go down the rabbit hole on the journey and motivations of creatives and entrepreneurs. Stay tuned for more stories to come. Until next time.